I remember this show from way back in the early 2000s called Coradeen's Candelabra. It was supposed to be a children's show, but even with my far advanced vocabulary at 6, I could still barely pronounce the title, let alone grasp the show's material. Without being without cable, we used rabbit ears to get the TV, the bunny ears. I mean antenna, not actual bunny ears, although they would be quite a better reception. One of the few channels we got was a network called Spring Again TV, which showed any sitcoms and cartoons during the hours of the day. It still didn't have commercials, all except for the end of the show, with the credits sped up alongside with the first commercial to be shown. Some of the sitcoms featured that were Friends, Seinfeld, and Hogan's Heroes. If actually, until quite recently, it didn't strike me up as odd as the station had the licenses and permission to use these shows and more, since it had the same original stuff to the show, as well as one of these shows being a cartoon called Coradeen's Candelabra. I really don't know why I think about the oddness of this show before. This show was seriously messed up. I went online to search for it after the recent conversation, which left me wondering about this show and the taste of its head cheese, if it was my persecutor. Results to any, but there was literally nothing related to it. Then I searched up Spring Again TV, but only could find things in German. Upon looking to try to find over them, I could see that the titles had nothing to do with the network, but common name. Frustrated, I went to YouTube and to waste some time watching the YoCast and other stuff. Curious, I typed in Coradeen's Candelabra at the search bar and got nothing. No hits, no episodes, no clips, nothing. Not even on YouTube had anything. I was still standstill in my search, until my mother brought me a certain couple VHS tapes about a week later. I asked what they were, and she said, "It's a show that you keep looking up. I never saw you get to see it, so I looked around work, and my friend David, he said he had recorded the episodes a long time ago. Apparently it's a pretty hard to find the show, but so you should thank him sometime." I was astonished. I took the tapes and went back to my room for them, eager to finally state my curiosity. There were 14 episodes of the show. Each were 20 to 25 minutes long. I'm only going to go through the the ones that made me the most uncomfortable. The introduction to the show, accompanied by rich, somber piano music. This rich couple having their estate and having a huge mansion with many expensive things on display. Their daughter Coradeen, a red-haired, pale-faced child, almost like Ginger. She looks like a younger version of her mother. She looks sad at her departure, and when they were gone, she goes to Candelabra near the entrance and says, "Amisita," which means, I'm assuming, the same saying that is the name's thing, but it's not explicitly like any other title. The thing that shudders and comes to life, along with many other things in the house. The rest of the intro was just dashing through the house, doing various things with animate objects. Before her parents come back. When they enter, all is back normal. The parents' faces are grim and menacing, but looking down at her as if she's scum, while she looked over at the candelabra, now still looking like in its proper place. As the few switches were to candelabra, the title then appears to be across the bottom screen, showing a cursive script. Going off with only the intro, there is nothing much that seemed to be anything wrong with the show. Sure, the glaring the parents and the sad title and the music is pretty weird, but nothing that has seemed to be done before in television. As a kid, the show's whimsy while she played was still entrancing. Watching it now, it still bothers the hell out of me. This episode began with Coradeen playing hide and seek with Semitia, and the unnamed red curtain was nothing more than Candelabra seems to have a show by its name. She finally then looks at Samita before her stone burst of her father, who is tall and dark-haired man with a widow's peak and a business suit, but can't find her other friend. Her mom passes by and asks her to help and to remove some curtains around the house. While carrying the red one away, sadly Coradeen goes into a couple of rooms to remove the curtains, each of the episode color from the last show. How this works aesthetically, but I don't know, but moving on. Once she is finished, Amicitia asks her where her friends had gone. Coradeen answers with, "They're going to a different home. where they can be used for better, in a way that she seems like she's hearing the exact same before about other things. Amencia then starts to cook up a plan to get the curtains back, and this has Coradeen participate. The plan is to go to the room where they had been going to steal them and hang them in Coradeen's room. While incensing this, however, they are caught by her father, rather she because Amincita is in her room preparing the walls. He takes the curtains from her and shouts, "Why do you keep doing this? They are not real, and they're your friends." He then proceeds to rip them apart, each rip punctuated with the yelled word, "You are too old to play make-believe." He then tosses the shreds to her feet, and the audible whimpers is obviously heard in the voice, followed by the fading breath. Coradeen begins to cry and says, "You killed them! Why did you do that?" Then her father screams and yells, of course, "You are too old to play make-believe!" Again, then grabbing her viciously by the arm and taking her away. It cuts to her from her in the curtain room to her entering a room with a red welt now visible on her face. Emincita is nowhere to be seen at first, but she comes out of the closet as Coradeen softly cries. The Candelabra then sits next to her bed as the camera pans out. The episode ends with her sitting on the near now, more lavish curtains saying, "Emincita" over and over again. The Candelabra is nowhere to be found, however. Her father enters, saying in monotone, "It's time for your medication, Coradeen." The next episode begins with Coradeen's mother showing up a group of important-looking people around the house. She converses about her family with these people, stopping by at the stairs and shout, "Corey!" and the only time her nickname is ever used for her. Coradeen then walks calmly down the stairs, doing a small curtsy while wearing a light blue blouse and light blue dress. Her mom then tells people, "This is Coradeen. She is 7 years old and is very smart and well." She then says something to her daughter in a different language, and Coradeen responds apparently in the same language. The group claps at the advanced use of Latin. As stated with one of the men in the group, the same man asks about the garden, as the group is comprised with the judges by context. They go back to the house, leaving Coradeen in the main landing. She then walks over to Mesita, but the scene then goes to her mother and the judges, all oohing and eyeing over the plants and flowers of the garden, while her mother walks around and talks about the various plants. This scene then goes on for 10 minutes, way longer than it should be. The judges deliberate, but finally reveal that she wins in second place. She looks angry for a split second, but eventually calms down over the silver ribbon from the judges. Then the show cuts to a different house. A later point at that day, a blonde woman is tending to her garden when a silhouette appears behind her. The scene then lasts for about 30 seconds, with the silhouette slowly getting closer, before cutting to Coradeen watching TV. It was on the newscast about the missing first place garden owner, Maddie Pendleton, and she is saying she's gone missing the same day she won the ribbon. The committee that judged the contest appeared on the coverage, saying that the contest should be held in the memory of her future. This episode then ends with Coradeen's mother tending to a freshly dug garden, and each section marked off as a stake of wood decorated with pieces of the curtains from episode 1. She fertilizes the garden with the pinkish-reddish pellets from the bag, which I'm guessing implies that Maddie is growing one last garden. The episode seems to be the last prepared, and then a few lines from the dialogue was cut off at the end. It also wasn't the two that involved Coradeen in the plot. I hated this next episode. I hated this episode so much. Coradeen and Mesita were playing with a cooking set, making macaroni and cheese, which resembled barf, but she's 7 and give her a break. And Mesita tastes it and tells her that it's best thing since ice cream. Coradeen doesn't even know what ice cream is. Being homeschooled and limited TV time, I'm seeing at episode 5, and Mesita then tells her to go get some from the kitchen, where it's kept in the freezer. She goes to get it, but is stopped when her parents walked in, asking her to go away for a bit. She then leaves her parents to argue about their marriage. Her father wants to go at it, but which is startling enough for a kids show, but her mother doesn't want to. Frustrated, he exits out of the kitchen, slamming the door and going outside. The next 8 minutes were comprised of both Coradeen trying to bake new foods for the Immolate ice cream, and her trying to sneak into the kitchen to get some. Near the end of the episode, she tries again in the dead of night, finally getting the carton of vanilla from the freezer. But as she opens it, her father walks in and sees her with the ice cream. He looks extremely angry for a moment, before his face switches to a calmer expression. He says, "Well, maybe you can help me with my problem. Your mother doesn't seem to want to help." He then motions for her to follow, and they exit out of the room. Coradeen still carrying the ice cream. "If you help me, I'll let you in on a secret." The camera then stays in the kitchen, but you can hear Coradeen screaming in pain from the other room. It doesn't even sound like the voice actor at this point. It sounds like a real person in agony. After 2 minutes of her screaming, they come back, and Coradine had tears streaming down her face, while her father, with a satisfied look on her face, he sits down on the table with her ice cream, now covered in red liquid, and tells her, "Ice cream's way better with a cherry on top." The rest of the episode was just her adding a barbaric dessert. I vomited out of this episode. I almost didn't want to watch the last 2 hours, but I made myself. Coradine dies in the last two episodes, and I don't understand why they allowed this on a children's show. But this being on enough in portrayal of an abused daughter, bringing up the new meaning term, being like a redhead stepchild, I am going to have to show this show is obscured, and that certainly no one will accidentally stumble upon it. The tapes are currently under investigation by the police because of the way the explicit material is portrayed, as well as my mother's friend David, since they have no evidence that Springton TV ever existed. They're assuming that he made the show until further notice. None of the people featured in the show credits were real people, and there isn't even a real animator who does some animation similar to the shows. David has a daughter who died in 2003 at the age of 8 and was well known to draw on honest holiday cards for people, using the art style that was similar to the shows. The father in this show was striking similar to his own father. Wow, this was definitely another disturbing lost episode I have not checked out in a while. And this episode I'm going to be doing is called Coradeen's Candelabra. This one was actually a pretty disturbing story. I'm not gonna lie. This one did had some messed up episodes involving this character Coradine, and the fact that this show, was you know not existed or something. I think it might have been one of those shows that you've seen once, but but it's probably never aired again or something. The whole concept of it is messed up. I'm not gonna lie, it is definitely messed up. I've seen, a couple people like gory parodies actually reviewed this episode, reviewed this pasta. I mean, some of the subject matter that was in this story kind of got a really was really messed up. So I definitely have to say it honestly really almost killed the story because, the subject matter of the story just didn't seem to make any sense. That, states a pretty good reason, but I honestly have not, checked out this story in a while. I mean, I think the last time I checked out this story was maybe a few years ago, but this was definitely a weird one, but it's also a messed up one because I had not touched this story in a while. I mean, it's pretty weird. I mean, the whole subject matter of it, I mean, I just feel that some of it was not done properly. And that's really saying something when I was looking at this episode again. I mean, I just feel that the subject matter in the final episode, the ice cream one, I feel that it wasn't really done properly. That's probably one of the only complaints I have to say about this episode. But other than that, it was an okay lost episode pasta, maybe not 100% perfect, but it definitely was not terrible. I can definitely say that. It is definitely not a terrible story, but it could have been better. So, with that being said, I personally didn't mind this episode. I thought it was an okay episode, but could have been better, but that's just me though. So, I mean, the grammar of this story was pretty good. I was able to read this without a problem. The sentence structure is pretty good. The detail of it was well done. Although the final episode was the reason I had an issue with the story. And I just felt that the subject matter of it was not done well. That's just my opinion, though. But it's messed up, yes, but it's still a pretty good good story. So this is probably like a couple of years old or something. But I definitely have to say it definitely is not the terrible lost episode, but it's definitely maybe not the best one I've seen. So I'm gonna definitely say something, and this is me gonna be brutally honest with any of you guys. If you guys are gonna add a subject matter in a creepypasta like what this one did, you gotta make sure you know what you're doing and make sure you know exactly what you're doing. Even though you gotta make sure it executes it pretty well. Otherwise, if you just put it there for the sake of throwing it in there, it's just not gonna make the story good. I mean, it's just really messed up. But at the same time, though, if you're gonna do a subject matter like this, you gotta make sure you know what you're doing. That's all I really have to say. And that's my best advice I can give for any of you guys who are going to sit there and make anything, like that. All right. I guess that's one of the things I have to say. But if you guys happen to like this story, that is pretty understandable. If you like this story, that's fine. I respect your opinion. If you don't like this story, well, that's fine. That's personally your own personal opinion. So, this story, while it's not really the best story I've seen in the world, but is definitely not a terrible one. I can definitely give it that. So, this one was definitely one of those stories that I really have to say that it's honestly really interesting, but at the same time it was really messed up. So, yeah, I could definitely say right now that, like I'm always going to say that this is just simply my own personal opinion. And if you happen to disagree with me, that's perfectly fine too. We're all entitled to our own opinions in regards to these creepypastas. This is just simply my own personal thoughts. I give this story a what should I do this? I'm gonna give this story a 7 out of 10. Not the best lost episode pasta I've seen. Not terrible, but the last episode with the subject matter that was dealt in that story, that honestly I had to have to complain about, mainly because I feel that it didn't really execute it well. But that's just me though. But I respect your opinion if if you disagree with what I say. But like I said though, um, despite that, it was an alright story. I mean, not the best lost episode, but definitely not terrible. I'm surprised I had not even read this story yet until now. So, anyways, what did you guys personally think of this creepypasta? Did you all enjoy it? Did you all not? Also, what we have done personally to help make this story a lot better? Feel free to let me know what your thoughts are down in the comments below. I'm the Lion Queen. Thank you so much for watching today's video. And if you happen to be brand new here on this channel, feel free to leave a like, comment, and subscribe if you're new. Ring the bell for notifications when it uploads, so that way you guys will not miss an upload. Also, if you guys are interested in following my DeviantArt page, feel free to follow my DeviantArt account. It is there is a link to it if you go to my about page section of my channel. Um, if you have Twitter and you're interested in following my Twitter, feel free to do so as well. You can leave me a follow. Also, if you're interested in subscribing to my backup channel called Miss Dark Shigo, feel free to go subscribe to that one as well if you happen to not be subbed to it already. So anyways, like I always gonna say right now, roll the outro because I'm out, and I will be seeing you all in the next video. Peace out.